In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how I like to back an embroidery hoop. You'll need a few different supplies to get started. A pair of scissors, some needle and thread, I like to just use embroidery thread, and some pinking shears if you have them. You'll also want to have a finished embroidery with an embroidery hoop and also some fabric you want to use for the back. Cut the fabric to size so that you have a little bit of extra fabric around the hoop. If the fabric has any creasing or wrinkles, you can go ahead and iron it before you put it back in the hoop. Place the fabrics together. If you're using printed fabric, make sure that the wrong sides are together of the embroidery and the printed fabric. Separate the inner and outer rings and place the inner ring underneath the hoop, centering it the way you'd like the embroidery to be framed. Loosen the outer screw and hoop your embroidery. Tighten the screw of the embroidery hoop. I'm using one that has pretty heavy hardware, so I'm going to use a screwdriver. Now it's time to smooth out the fabric in your embroidery hoop. You want to make sure that there's no creases or wrinkles and that the fabric is not warped and the design is not distorted at all. Double check before you start cutting any of the excess fabric off that the design is centered the way you want it to, because there's no turning back after this. Usually I'll cut down the back fabric to the hoop because there's not really any reason to secure it to the back of the hoop. Next, I like to use the pinking shears for the outside fabric. They just kind of help to prevent any fraying. You don't have to use these, but I prefer to use them for that reason. You'll want to leave about 3/4 of an inch to an inch of fabric around the hoop. In order to estimate how much thread you need, I just lay it around the outside of the hoop to make sure that I can just use one piece and not have to start over with a new thread. Thread your needle and tie a knot in the end. My favorite way to tie a knot is using a quilter's knot because you can control the size of the knot better. So basically all you have to do is place the tail of the thread and the tip of the needle towards one another, and then twist the needle around the tail of the thread. Pinch the thread and pull it through, and it will form a little knot on the end. Now it's time to make a running stitch around that excess fabric around the outside of your hoop. All you have to do is make straight stitches, evenly spaced out, which is essentially a running stitch. And you're just gonna do this all the way around this excess fabric. Once you get to the very end, you'll just pull this stitch tight and it will pull the excess fabric towards the back of the hoop. And then you can secure it with a knot. You can tie the ends of the thread together, or you can do a sewing finishing knot, which is basically just placing your needle under the last stitch, leaving a loop, and placing your needle through the loop. I like to do this 2 or 3 times and it will form a knot. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more.